His lowest point. There was, of course, early on. Remember, it was, of course, not just India, it was the rest of Asia, etc., also, which was in the red, 1.5% when we were starting to trade. But here in India, there was buying, which was seen at lower levels, and it all picked up. Banks noticeably failed to see any follow through because the Nifty Bank Index was up some 3.5% last week, and private banks, especially, were the culprits. PSUs for most parts were doing pretty well, but then there was some selling pressure in the second half, and if you look at this PSU indices, they did not fare too well. But there was gains in autos, there was consumers, and there were FMCG stocks. It's just rotation. I mean, these are sectors which have done well till the week before last, and last week it was Nifty Bank, and it's sort of come back to some of these prior sector once again. And I think you're a bit of it's not a big blowout kind of a move, higher but more consolidative kind of price action, and I guess some of it, of course, is also the market trying to look ahead, right? It got one big event, which is the union budget, and market is starting to pay attention to all kinds of chatter around this, especially with regards to taxation. There have been a couple of articles in newspapers, etc., and of course, how is the monsoon going to fare in July, because June has been pretty poor across the country, and that is certainly very important for consumer related sectors, actually for the overall market as well. So consolidative kind of price action, but higher, and definitely, if you wanted to rank the session today, a good session because of the rebound that we saw from the day's lowest point. Prima.
Well, another big trigger for the month of July is going to be earnings. So before the budget, we will be tracking the corporate numbers, and it kickstarts with IT as always. For the Nifty, it's a close well above 23,500, a gain of 36 points. But in the morning, the Nifty was down nearly 150, 160 points. So it's a commendable recovery. The advanced decline ratio, after many twists and turns, finally ends absolutely flat, 1:1 in terms of the advanced decline ratio. Consumer-related stocks did well. So Trent was up more than 3%. But in the frontline pack, you had Tata Consumer, Nestle, ITC notching up gains. M&M was a big mover. Power stocks like Power Grid, NTPC pushed higher. Shriram Finance was one of the big winners. And on the way down, Indus Bank, Reliance Industries and Adani Ports, all these three in the large cap space drag their feet with notable losses. But let's also tell you what we have for you on our show today. We start with the top movers and shakers of the day. Hormus joins in. Some of the stocks that made headlines were Bharti, Airtel, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank and TBO Tech. We'll get you the key reasons why they were buzzing. And also our popular segment, D Street Chatter on the show, and Nimesh will tell us why Arvind Limited was buzzing today. And finally, the key market events to watch out for tomorrow. But first, to the big movers and shakers of the day, Hormus is at the big wall. Hormus.
You can call it a good day, as you just mentioned, right? A recovery from the lows of the day and eventually ending positively. So a good start to the June series expiry week. But what also had a good start to the June series expiry week was the holding companies, and they had an absolutely field day in today's session. Almost all of them highlighted on the screen here, ending 20% higher because of the SEBI circular on the special call auction. We just spoke about it a few minutes ago. But on the flip side, a sector that did not have a very good day was fertilizer stocks. And as swiftly as they moved higher last week in anticipation of the GST Council meet and its potential outcome, they sold off equally faster in today's session as well. NFL, RCF, FACT, all of them seeing losses of anywhere between 7 to 10%. So that was a sector under pressure today. The MFIs, the other sector that was under pressure, the microfinance institutions, with Ujjivan pointing out to the stress within this space, and all of these stocks also seeing losses of anywhere between 2 to 5%, be it Credit Access, Muthoot, Fusion, and even Equitas seeing some bit of losses in today's session. How did PSUs fare today? It was a mixed bag. HAL, the board meeting is nearing for a dividend announcement, so that stock continues to surge higher. But the rest of the PSU pack saw a bit of selling pressure, be it Concor, SAIL, NMDC, all of them ending with losses of 1 to 4%. Not a good day for PSUs overall, but a couple of stocks that I wanted to highlight other than the sectors. Rout Mobile was one of them, 14% higher, courtesy some positive news flow today. Market cap back above 11,000 crores. And lastly, Century Textiles, a stock that ended at a record high in today's trading session, with a real estate arm acquiring some land in Pune with a 2,500 crore revenue potential. So 5% higher there as well for Century Textiles at a record high. Back to you guys.
All right, Hormus, thanks very much for that. Anand, Tandon is with us, and so is Shilpa, Rout. So fundamentals and technicals both. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining in. Anand, you've been a little cautious in the markets for a while now. The grind higher continues though. There's the budget in front. Reema said earnings, of course, never too far away. What's your sense, Anand? Markets overall?
Well, I don't think much has changed. I think, the market, as you said, continues to grind higher. The justification for it becomes even lower, especially on the small cap where the valuations now are stratospheric. But that said, till the money flow continues, I think, the best thing you can do is to stay in sectors which you think can perform well over the longer term. And I think you need to extend your time frame over which you're looking to invest. But other than that, one doesn't exit a raging bull market. So the best advice one can give is to change your allocation, move more towards the front line. If you're really betting on foreigners to come in and buy in a large quantity, they're not going to be buying small cap. So you have to be looking at the larger cap companies, and they are relatively cheaper also in comparison to the mid and small cap companies. So the larger ones are the ones that you need to be in. Don't look for value right now. At this stage, momentum is king, and you need to move with it.
Shilpa, what's the best advice that you would give given the market technicals and how the day fared today, and any stocks that you have on your radar for tomorrow?
Yes, Reema. If you look at the indices, this is definitely a buy on dips market right now, because any sort of little decline also is, getting bought into very aggressively. And we have seen that Nifty did held on to that 22,400 to 350 zones as a support, and then a bounce towards 22,600 has almost, been tested again. So this is again a resistance zones, but if this holds, that you will see that 22,800 to 24,000 mark. Likewise, Bank Nifty, as long as they are holding 50,500, it is completely, fair trade for the index, where you will see that higher levels of 52,500 to 53,000 coming in as well. For tomorrow, we saw good, long built up today in M&M, which has been trading around 2,900, 10 to 20 zones there. And I believe, with a stop loss of 2,880, you should stay long, and it could move towards 3,000 in a few sessions. And the other one would be Grasim. Grasim today also saw a lot of, aggressive OI additions on the long side, and it has given a breakout about 2,500 zones now. So just to stop below 2,500, the stock is ready to test around 2,550 to 2,570.
Okay. Stay on. Let's get to a CNBC TV18 exclusive first, where sources suggest that Bharti Airtel has mega plans in the work to capitalize on its telecom tower vertical Indus Towers. Nisha gets us these exclusive details. Nisha.
Thanks for that. Yes, with an eye on telecom sector overall seeing some improvement with high expectations of a tariff hike as well. Well, the direct beneficiary will also be the telecom tower business of Indus Towers, and that gives Bharti Airtel a lot of confidence to come up with mega plans. In fact, sources with direct knowledge have shared with CNBC TV18 that there is a two-pronged strategy which is at works. First, to consolidate the business of Indus Towers. Remember, they stopped short of 49% stake in the last stake that they bought from Vodafone, and now we gather from sources with direct knowledge that they are in talks to buy out the remaining 3% stake from Vodafone PLC. And not just that, it will also benefit Indus Towers because talks are meandering around a large part of the proceeds of that stake sale, which Vodafone should infuse and pay back some part of the dues to Indus Towers. Remember, Vodafone Idea owes dues to the tune of 5,400 crore rupees. Also to remember that the last block deal by Vodafone exempts the promoters from a lock-in period from the stake sale and buying more shares. The second part of the strategy is the data center Nextra, which is housed in Bharti Airtel at the current moment, dependent on Bharti Airtel for a large part of its business performance. That Bharti Airtel could be looking at merging with Indus Towers is what we gather from sources with direct knowledge. This for three reasons: value unlocking of Nextra, second, giving an exit to Carlyle, which owns 24% stake in the company, and third, also to make Bharti Airtel asset light. Remember, Indus Towers is a cash throwing business, and their capital can be utilized for further expansion of high growth potential area of data centers. We reached out to all the companies named in the story. We did not get any comments on the queries that were given. But this is the two-pronged strategy that Bharti Airtel could be working on in capitalizing on Indus Towers' potential going forward, as the health of telecom sector is likely to improve with the tariff hikes.
Okay, well, everybody's waiting for that tariff increase. Nisha, thanks very much for that. Anand, Bharti, of course, well owned and understood, etc. Indus Tower is the one which has recently been on the up and up. Do you like this one?
Well, if you're looking for a steady business with some amount of growth, I think Indus Tower qualifies. The biggest issue for Indus has been the fact that one of their tenants, Vodafone, has not been paying them the money. So while the revenues keep coming in, the receivables also go up. That looks like it may get addressed, at least in part. And perhaps over the longer time, you may be able to get the stuff in. But the only problem is that what next? Because, you will need the likelihood of getting new tenants is not very high. Your real growth is now going to come through improvement in services and 5G, etc. Which is a case where not too many use cases have appeared so far, and therefore the case for 5G still remains somewhat weak. But that said, I think that's almost inevitable. So your growth will come because you'll be able to perhaps reinvest and charge a little more. It's a utility kind of earning curve that you're really looking at. So at a reasonable valuation, yes, I think it is a company that you may want to keep as a quasi-debt for part of your portfolio.
All right, Anand, got that. We want to highlight one more name here, and I'll come to you for your reaction. Ujjivan Small Finance Bank was down about 5%. There was an analyst meet, and it didn't go down very well with what was said. Abhishek is here with details. Abhishek.
Well, to begin with, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank held an analyst meet on Friday, and no surprise over there, given the fact that they have mentioned stress is increasing in the industry. Now, we did highlight to our viewers in May 2024 that stress is rising in the MFI sector, and provision and NPS both are rising over there, that we saw in H2 FY24. So, increasing credit cost guidance, which has been up to 1.7% for FY25, which was at around 1.4 to 1.5% earlier in terms of guidance, and was at 1% for FY24. Now, they have lowered the loan growth rate as well. Earlier, they talked about 25% loan growth for FY25. Now, that's been tapered down to 20% loan growth for FY25. The ROE target has also been lowered a bit. It's now at 20% versus 22% earlier. On the positive side, now the bank did speak, or the management did talk about the fact that they will be applying for a universal banking license in FY25. So watch out for action over there in next 6 to 9 months that they might apply for a universal banking license. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Another stock on our radar was TBO Tech, and the stock was up more than 7% after Goldman Sachs put out a very bullish call. Mangalam is standing by with the details on this. Mangalam.
Well, so brokerage notes are initiating, brokerages are initiating coverages on newer companies. Goldman Sachs actually initiated coverage on MACMA India last week. The stock did extremely well, and today's pick was actually TBO Tech, where they've initiated coverage buy rating, target of a little under 2,000 rupees. Remember, the stock has a recent listing, and from its issue price itself, the stock has doubled, and despite that, Goldman Sachs sees more. Why is that? Because it's in the space of eB2B governance for or rather eB2B travel growth business out there, and they believe that some of the prospects of the company, which include the likes of free cash flow to net profit ratio, will stay above 100% for the foreseeable future. The benefits of operating leverage will play out as well, where the revenue compounds over the next 6 years at 21%, EBITDA compounds at 30%, so margin expands, and we see an EPS compounding of 33% each year for the next 6 years, and as a result of which, it brings them to the target price. The only risks that they put on the table, because it's a B2B business, any change in supplier terms is something that could be a negative, or any non-value accretive M&A if the company were to go ahead. And given the tailwinds that the travel sector is seeing, if it does slow down, then maybe that could be a bit of a problem.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Shilpa, coming first on Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. Is there more downside in the stock after today's fall?
If you talk about the Ujjivan Small Finance Bank share, I don't see that, there's a lot of downside from here. The support base is around 40 here, 40-41 acts as a crucial support. And if you look at the charts, this accumulation here can be a good buying opportunity. And once a move past 48 zones, I believe the stock can again move towards 55 to 58 zones.
Anand, do you track TBO Tech, by the way? Have you looked at it?
I have had a glance at it. So, the report pretty much summarizes whatever you could figure out. Travel is no doubt a great business right now. The only question is whether which end of the travel spectrum do you want to invest in. As you just mentioned, that it's a B2B business, whereas the end user is where the money is being made right now. Will they translate into having the data source providers, technology, and so on, also being able to generate more revenues and continue to grow at the same speed? Is the choice you're really making? My personal choice would be, if you want to play travel, it is far easier to buy either hotels, airlines, or related businesses. That said,
Yeah.
TBO is relatively cheap in the current market, and therefore may not be a bad bet to look at.
I like that, relatively cheap, right?
He said it twice, just to be clear.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Anand and Shilpa, for joining us and running us through what you made of things. Appreciate it. Well, the first session of the 18th Lok Sabha began today as Prime Minister Modi and his Council of Ministers took oath as members of the House. What is on the new government's agenda? That's essentially what is on the market's mind as well. Sources now tell CNBC TV 18 that there could be a big boost to manufacturing in the government's 100-day action plan. Parishit is here with some of these details. Parishit, over to you.
Well, yes, there could be announcements for manufacturing and also for startups in the next 100 days. We heard that 3 proposals on new PLI schemes, such as for labour-intensive sectors including footwear, toys and leather, are ready and they await cabinet approval. If the government approves them, they could come in the next 100 days. Also, there are 5 PLI schemes which are being reworked. So the proposal is to expand the number of product lines in these PLI schemes and also maybe extend the date for manufacturing. So, for example, if under textile, the date for starting manufacturing was 2 years from the application, that would be extended for 3 years so that the time period is more to applicants. So this will be for sectors like textiles, food processing, solar, bulk drugs and the pharma scheme as well. What we're hearing on food processing is that the government wants to establish smart food processing hubs across the country with a major thrust on making India a global player in the supply chain for processed fruits, vegetables, fish and dairy as well. There would be a greater focus on manufacturing and research in APIs and expansion of research-linked incentives under the existing PLI framework when it comes to pharma and bulk drugs. Electronics, automobiles, defense and mobile sector will continue getting a push, and now the focus will be on enhanced job creation is what our sources tell us. The Jan Vishwas bill, the first version of this bill was brought under NDA 2 and this decriminalized many unnecessary penal provisions of various laws which the industry was wary of. Now consultations are taking place with the industry and a list of more such laws are being made, and by the end of 100 days, a cabinet note is likely to have been passed by the government and a new bill would also be drafted on Jan Vishwas 2. And finally, a deep tech policy for startups is also in the works.
Thank you very much for that. And now let's get you through the next segment where we get you the top corporate voices who joined us on our show today. First up, Happiest Minds. The management reiterated its estimate of a 35 to 40% growth for FY25, driven by continued organic growth and the integration of 2 acquisitions that they had announced earlier this year. The company is also hopeful that demand will pick up in the second half of the year as they believe that their clients' customers cannot stay away from tech investments beyond 18 months. The company, the management reaffirmed their long-term ambition to hit $1 billion of revenues by 2031, which implies that from here on, the company will need to clock in a 22% annual growth year after year.
Well, from IT services to FMCG, Adani Wilmar management said that edible oil prices have increased between 5 to 8% so far in the first quarter. However, the company expects to see double-digit volume growth in Q1 with margins also projected to improve year on year. The food and FMCG basket is anticipated to grow over 20% compared to the previous year.
With that, it's time for a short break. We'll get you our popular segment, D Street Chatter, along with the top market events to watch out for on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Markets Forward, and it was a good day on Dalal Street. We ended higher, minor gains of about 0.2%, but significant recovery from the day's low. But what was the buzz in the dealing rooms? Nimesh is now joining in with D Street Chatter. Nimesh.
I remind it was a good recovery in the markets today, but it was the broader markets which relatively outperformed. There were big moves in the holding company stocks on the back of that SEBI circular, and even beyond that, there were a lot of buzz in the broader market stocks. But here's my list of the individual names. The first stock is Arvind Limited. That stock ended marginally lower after a large block, nearly 1.5% equity got changed hands. I understand the promoter entity was a seller, and some domestic mutual funds were buyer today, so the disclosures could be interesting there. The second name is Lloyd Metals. That stock has been consolidating for a very long time now, but now I understand finally the fundraising is on the cards. The companies like to raise funds both via preferential issue as well as the QIP, so that's something to track there. The third stock is Sterlite Technologies. After a long time, some bit of traction seems to be back, and this particular name as well. There were buy flows at HNI desk, and the city is anticipating large order win for the company very soon. And the last is both PFC and REC. While the stocks recovered from the day's low, there was selling pressure from larger FIs in both these names, so expect high delivery volumes. And in general, there was selling pressure in the PSU stocks today.
All right, Nimesh, thanks very much for that. Well, before we wrap, here's what you need to watch out for in terms of events as we come back tomorrow. Ekta is standing by with that. Ekta.
Thanks. Well, I'll start with the global events. There is a Eurogroup meeting. Spain will be coming out with their GDP data. From the US, we have Fed member Bowman as well as Cook's speech, the Red Book Index, S&P Case-Shiller's Home Price Index, Consumer Confidence for June, Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index as well. The IIFL Investment India Conference will have the likes of Pidilite, 360 WAM, FSN e-commerce or Nykaa, which will be showcasing there. In terms of AGMs, we have L&T Finance, Adani Green Energy, Bank of India, Asian Paints, and a couple of stocks going ex-dividends such as Tata Elxsi, Volta, Serra Sanitary Ware.
Also, the telecom spectrum auctions begin tomorrow. Ekta, thank you very much for that. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. We'll be back with more news and updates.
Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the nifty recover from their opening lows, end with marginal gains. Metals and PSU stocks under pressure. Auto and FMCG stocks lead the gains. SEBI conducts search and seizure operations at Quant Asset Management Company's headquarters in Mumbai. The fund house says it will provide all necessary support and continue to furnish data to the regulator. The impact of AI will be bigger than mobile and cloud, says the president of TCS in North America, Amit Bajaj. Adds that business confidence is robust, but large clients in the US are in wait-and-watch mode ahead of the elections. Naspa's own process writes down its entire Baiju stake worth $493 million to zero, attributes the decision to inadequate information on the edtech firm's financial health, liabilities and future outlook.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी.
Prime Minister Modi takes oath as a parliamentarian for the third time in the first sitting of the 18th Lok Sabha. Resurgent opposition demands a debate on the paper leak issues and is already locking horns with the government on the appointment of the pro tem speaker. Student protests intensify in the capital after National Testing Agency delays the NEET postgraduate exam as a precautionary measure after Bihar and Gujarat police in Maharashtra register another case over an alleged NEET paper leak. A 100-day plan for the manufacturing sector is in the works. Sources say the government will take a call on new PLI schemes for footwear, leather and toy sectors, as well as look at modifying 5 other PLI schemes, including textiles and bulk drugs, to attract more investment. A deep tech policy for startups and a second law to remove unnecessary penal provisions impacting businesses also on the cards. Major labour and trade unions asked the finance minister to hike the minimum wage from 15,000 rupees to 26,000 rupees, also called for higher allocation to central schemes like midday meals and child development services. At least 19 killed in Russia's Dagestan province after gunmen attack a synagogue, an Orthodox church and police checkpoints. Russian authorities have called it a terror attack. No one has claimed responsibility so far. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war will continue even if a ceasefire is agreed on with Hamas. Israeli forces claim to have killed a senior Hamas weapons expert. More than 37,500 Palestinians have died in the last 8 months, according to officials in Gaza. As always, the day's market action to start with. The markets did recover, coming off their opening lows, ending the day finely flat with a slight positive bias. The Nifty managing to stay above the 23,500 mark. So that's it, a very flat close, but as we pointed out, off the intraday lows, 36 points higher for the Nifty mid-cap up by about 147 points. ICICI Bank up by about 1% today. Reliance Industries down by almost 1% this afternoon. So those were some of the key stock movements. Prashant is standing by now to wrap up the day's trading action for us. Prashant, muted Monday.
A very good session all told by 3:30 today, because the market in the morning looked bad. I mean, we were down about 150, 160 odd points, and by close, we were up almost 40, 50 points. So this is, a big improvement, and through the course of the day, the market looked better and better. Now, the Nifty, of course, will tell you that story on your screen. Nifty Bank maybe a little flatter. The Nifty Bank, remember, last week was the outperformer with a 3.5% gain, but no real follow through today. Mid-caps and small caps. Mid-caps did better. Small caps, not so much on your screen. Now, the large cap stocks which did well, Mahindra and Mahindra, I mean, it's basically continuity. M&M has been doing very well. There's more gains there. Shriram Finance, one of the best performing NBFC names. There was Power Grid, Grasim and Sun Pharma. Sun Pharma, of course, had news flow, which also participated. On the downside, there was Indus, there was Cipla and Adani Ports, which were 3 of the top losers. Now, in the broader markets, advance decline was almost evenly matched, although advances outnumbered declines, but not by much. Holding companies were all up and about between 10 and 20%. Bombay Burma, for example, case in point on your screen. Rout Mobile was up big time. There was Exicom, fairly recent listing. Bombay Dyeing was up and about. Tube Investments. There was a TBO Tech. There was initiation from a foreign broker. Hikal, D-Link India, Greenply, Zodiac Clothing. Out of the blue, but big volumes, up 20% today. On the downside as well, there was a fair bit of volume which was done. SAIL, Container Corporation, RCF are some of the names. Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, they lowered their guidance at the analyst meet. HFCL was down, NFL, some of these fertilizer stocks, actually a lot of them were down and out. Union Bank, Swan Energy, Mapma India had a big last week. It saw some profit booking. Policy Bazaar and Credit Access are some of the other names which also saw small pullbacks. All in all, a decent session given the fact that the market started sharply lower early today. Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. A quick check on the monsoon tracker. Meanwhile, the Met Department has predicted heavy rainfall along the western coast over the next few days, and this includes coastal Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Goa, with the southwest monsoon winds advancing further into Gujarat. Regions of North India and Central India may witness higher rainfall over the next few days, bringing some relief. Now, the market regulator SEBI has conducted search and seizure operations on Sandeep Tandon-owned Quant Mutual Fund as part of a probe into suspected front-running. According to a money control report, citing sources, the search and seizure operations were conducted across 2 locations, Mumbai and Hyderabad, on Friday. Now, Quant dealers and persons connected with the case were also questioned. The case allegedly relates to front-running, but the exact nature of the allegations could not be ascertained. It's also not clear if the management is under investigation or whether the probe relates only to external parties. Quant Mutual Fund is founded by Sandeep Tandon. The fund received a mutual fund license in 2017. It's been the fastest growing mutual fund in the country, with assets rising from 100-odd crores in 2019 to more than 90,000 crore rupees currently. In a statement, Quant said it has received inquiries from SEBI and it is fully committed to cooperate with the regulator. Now, Grow, another company in the dock, has clarified that no fraud took place after a user took